Jared leans in. There's the snap. Jared back, looking, throwing middle end zone. It is caught. Oh, baby, what a catch. Isaac Tesla absorbing a big shot and hanging on to the football.
Welcome to a special off-season edition of the Twentyman Huddle podcast. We've got a few coaching changes here in Detroit, and I'm going to welcome in a couple of those changes. I'm going to start with Mike Kafka, the new Detroit Lions passing game coordinator. Welcome. First off, congratulations. I guess what's it been like here these last couple weeks, kind of with the transition and being in a new building, getting to know a new staff, jumping right into free agency lists and the combine? Has it been a little bit of a whirlwind?
Well, it's been great. Just getting to introduce myself to the staff, starting to get to know them. Obviously, Dan and how he operates around the building. Jumping into the things that we're talking about on offense, like you mentioned. The free agents, the draft, that stuff starting to ramp up. So getting your mind kind of wrapped into that focus and understanding, the team that I just stepped into, how can I help there? How can I assist? And then how can I get implemented into those parts of the draft and free agency?
When you sat down with Dan, I'm just curious, and you guys started talking offensive football. You started talking about the pass game. How did those visions align? Why was this, in your opinion, kind of a great fit for you?
I think outside of the whole, even outside of football, getting to meet Dan and just understand, how he operates, the type of person he is, not just as, a coach, but as a man. Those things are really important to me. And I think the culture that he's built and the program that he's built is, just from afar, and competing against it and watching it over the last several years, just something that I really respect and I really want to be a part of. And so it was probably less about X's and O's, and more about just like the people that I wanted to surround myself with and be a part of something special.
And Dan's had a similar path, right? I mean, he started as an assistant coach. He was an interim head coach like you were in New York last year. Obviously got the head coach. Just why was working with Dan maybe that great fit?
Yeah, I did think that, we aligned in terms of, how we saw the game, just if the physicality of it, the toughness aspect of it, and obviously competing against it. We during the interview process, watching that game that we played against us. So it was just, I think as those conversations kind of developed, it just really felt like this is where I needed to be and where I wanted to be. And, I'm lucky to have this opportunity to be here. I'm fortunate.
Yeah, you were a quarterback in Minnesota. I believe it was 2015 when Drew Petzing was on the staff there. He wasn't in the quarterback room. I don't think he was an offensive assistant, but just I guess the same kind of question. Obviously, Drew pretty well. Just how do you see yourself aligning with kind of what he's trying to create here for the offense?
And Hank was there as well.
Oh, good call.
Our line coach was there as well. So, just having
some the gang all back together again,
exactly. Having a relationship there is cool. Obviously makes this transition a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, I'm looking to just help assist Drew in anything I can, whether that's ideas, whether that's structure, take things off of his plate. I know being in that chair, what that all entails, not only just the football side of it, but the personal side of it. So how can I help Drew first and foremost as an offensive coordinator, but then how can I go around and assist the assistant coaches and help be kind of be an aspect for them to lean on.
How do you think your experience last year as kind of being thrust into that interim head coach role make you a better football coach in the long run?
Yeah, you when you're in that role, you really have to you're obviously dealing with more players than just the one side of the football, but you're dealing with everybody in the organization. And so I think when I had an opportunity to kind of sit back and reflect on those things, those relationships that you built with just the players, the coaches, all the people that kind of put this thing together is really important. So, in these next opportunities, in this opportunity specifically, taking advantage of that and really get to know the people around the building.
Pass game coordinator role here in Detroit with this offense, which, as you know, just from watching the film, it's an explosive passing game. What makes you most excited about that role in this offense?
Yeah, you get to work with great people, and you get to work with great players who are very talented. So I'm excited to get to know them, get to meet them, and work with them, and put together and help put together an offense that can be pretty special.
You're going to be working close with Jared Goff, obviously. And when I look at Jared, and the one thing I see where he's got such an advantage is when you're a 10-year guy, and you know this from playing the position, there's nothing a defense can throw at Jared that he hasn't seen, right? Just being able to work with a veteran quarterback like that who's seen it all. Top 3 in yards, top 3 in touchdowns, top 3 in passer rating last year, right? A guy who's proven taking teams to the Super Bowl. How excited are you work with Jared, and what do you see about his game that makes you most excited to kind of sit down and try to make it even better?
Yeah, number one, he's a competitor. He's an operator, and it's really a credit to Coach Brunell too, who's been with him throughout this whole journey. Is how he structured the footwork, his eye progression, all the little small details. You see that on tape. And so to be able to get to work with a guy like that who's a veteran who, like you said, has seen a lot of different things, whether it's coverage schemes, whether it's fronts, pressures, like he has a pretty vast library of football that he can pull from. So that'll be cool to work with.
What do you think of the staff overall offensively? Just now getting to know them with Drew coming in now. Dan obviously is heavily involved in offense, and you get Skip in there now, the player making his first thing. Steve Oliver is an up and coming guy. I'm just curious, Hank, what you like about the offensive staff? What you think of it overall?
Very sharp, very smart, very detailed. And again, we're just in the very infancy stages of kind of putting this thing together, but I've been very, very impressed. And, I know that I'm going to learn a lot from them as well. So it's going to be a very cool opportunity, and one I'm looking forward to every day.
Top 5 quarterback, top 5 right tackle, top 5 wide receiver, top 5 tight end. Just, I guess, what's the ceiling for this offense, and particularly obviously with the passing game, which you're going to be a big focal point of?
I mean, listen, we're in February. Yeah, we're so early. We're putting it all together, and again, like Drew, whatever Drew's vision, whatever Coach Campbell's vision of that, it's my job to help bring that to life. So whatever aspect they need me to kind of insert myself in, that's what I'll do to the best of my ability. I just think we're so early in the game, we're putting together, making sure we're on the same page with our formations, the splits. Like those are the small details that we're kind of putting together right now. So probably a little too soon to tell and get on that.
But I see the smile.
Yeah.
There's got to be a little bit of an excitement there of just what you can be. And now it's a fun time, right? Free agency starting next month. You're going to add some pieces. The draft is then after that. You get some more young pieces with what you have coming back. It just seems like, do you think the potential obviously is very high for this offense and this passing game to continue what they've been doing the last couple of years? Yeah,
it's an exciting just based on the people that you have and the people that you're around. But again, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
that's where kind of where my mind's at. And where can we help and where can I assist is probably the biggest thing.
Mike Kafka, the new passing game coordinator. Thanks so much for taking the time.
You.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Twentyman Huddle podcast. With me right now, a man who needs a little introduction to Lions fans. But last time I had you on the podcast, Dan Skipper, it was player Dan Skipper.
Yep.
Now it is coach Dan Skipper. Have you gotten used to Coach Dan Skipper yet?
No, that's a little weird still. Just being in the lunchroom and whatnot. Coach Skipper. It's like that's the biggest change. It'll take some time to get used to, but coming around to it.
But is it a fun change though too? Sometimes with something new, there's the unknown, right? And you kind of got to tackle it every day, and the newness of it. How much has that been exciting? Maybe a little bit even rejuvenating.
Yeah, it's been awesome. To kind of see the other side. I've known this is coming for a long time. It's just how long can you play for, right? And hopping into the other side, the transition has been much easier than it would have been had I gone somewhere else. The building, the offense, the people, where the locker room's at. Like, those small things. You're not trying to learn everything all at once and figure out a new job while you're at it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that transition has to be, Frank and his expectations in that room. He had them for you. The players, their strengths and weaknesses. So how has that allowed you to kind of hit the ground running a little bit?
Yeah, Coach Fraley's been a great teacher at this point, and now seeing the work on the back end to get that stuff prepared and ready, I think that's been the biggest part, trying to figure out the computer side of things, how much work and that goes into before it hits your desk.
Do you have an appreciation now? Now, we haven't hit the dog days of training camp yet in the season, but are you starting to get a little bit more even of an appreciation of just that, the hours that coaches put in, the time that they spend, the film study, everything that goes along with being a coach?
Yeah, and the hours part, haven't hit that yet. So I don't have that. I mean,
it's coming.
I know it's coming, right? So I think the appreciation comes from just the amount of tech stuff that they know and how efficient they are. Like some of the things I've seen done with Excel in the last week are unbelievable.
Yeah.
So just trying to get caught up to speed so I can get proficient in those things, so I can continue to add value on the coaching side and do things in an efficient manner so that I can get to sleep at some point.
The analytics are coming, all those other little things that's probably fun to learn and kind of get into as well.
That's still way above my pay grade, so I just take the assignment and run with it.
Look, we talked about this when you were a player this past season, about this offensive line getting back to being kind of that dominant unit that we had been used to, especially in 23 and 24 when you were a big part of that as well. Is that a fun part now, being on the other side of trying to get it back to where that dominance was, and the pieces that you guys need to put in place to make that happen?
Definitely. I mean, it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
But you know what it looks like, you know what it should look like. So I think that is beneficial to see, okay, if you add here, do this, or start trying to build how this thing's going to look. It's interesting when you start factoring that stuff in and, just learning from the scouting folks of how to put all this together, how do you rank guys, because you got to have, talent, but you also need to have finish. You got to have all these different things that really come into play that I don't know, as far as what you're looking for from a scouting perspective, but I can look at the tape and say, he finishes, no, he doesn't, like things like that. So huge learning experience seeing, I know how to watch film, schematically, but from the scouting perspective, that's been a change.
How does that work? Or I guess, how does the front office, Brad staff, work cooperatively with the coaching staff? Now you've gotten kind of a look at that. How often does somebody come down and ask opinion of Hank or yourself, or hey, can you take a look at this guy, or what do you think of this guy? How much front office to coaching input collaboration is there within this kind of drafting process now that we're in the thick of it with the combine coming this week?
Yeah, no, there's been a lot. So, last week we're going through pro free agents and stuff and doing that whole process. But, Coach Fraley's been super, and he's been a great resource for that of, hey, here's kind of what we're looking for. Here's, hey, can he open? Can he not? What's an anchor look like? What, how each team's schematics kind of either mask someone or, almost limit some people. And so it's been interesting kind of seeing, how to take the film to the eval, and then, what skills do you value when you, start stacking it, and, kind of trying to look at the big picture of the whole thing. And then, once the front office goes, I don't know that side yet, but, you get a big list and you start working on it. And
so how do you get back to being, I guess, the dominant offensive line? In your opinion, what do you guys need? Not to give away, obviously, secrets or what you're looking for exactly, but just in generalization, how do you get back to being that unit from 23 and 24? What do you need?
Yeah, I think it starts with, attitude. You got to have guys who want to be the best, want to play hard, want to do those things right. And then obviously there's a level of skill involved that, you got to have. And then, the knowledge base. And once we start getting into it, you can't play fast if you're thinking. So, how can we make sure that these guys know exactly what they're supposed to do, but not have to be lost in thought on the field trying to figure out, it's a different look from the picture, or, whatever. But hey, I'm going to go block this guy, and now that's all I'm worried about is going to block this guy. I'm not sitting there thinking like, do I, right? So you're just trying to think some of that, and, we'll keep working through it. But, the foundation's there. We just got to, we took a little bit of a wrong turn, so let's get back on the road.
I'm still getting used to the collared shirt. I'm sorry. Every time I look over, it's I think I've had you on a couple times. It's always been kind of after practice or something. You got tape on your hand. Still, this clean look. It's throwing me off just a little bit. But did you always know coaching was in your future?
Yeah, for I don't know. I say 3, 4, 5 years. I've thought,
Okay.
I mean, I may be done, so I'll probably hop in. And this year I knew I was done, and, no better time than right now to, hop in, kind of get the full off season, get, instead of trying to figure it out after training camp or, midway through the year when you've missed a cycle. And, there was so much movement this cycle, coaching cycle, that it was just, one of those opportune times to hop in and get rolling.
How much are you looking forward to working with some of the young guys? Miles Frazier, Tate Ratledge, obviously going into their second years. You know what that's like. Your first year, your second. You take that big leap usually as a young player. How much you're looking forward to kind of really digging deep with those young guys who are two guys who are expected. Obviously Tate at right guard, but I think there's some expectation that Miles can compete, and play that left spot as well potentially. So just how much are you looking forward to getting in with those young guys? It's
going to be great. I'm still unsure of the role I'll have, full on with that. But once we hit the field, but I'm excited to get working with these guys and get on them. So it's gonna be a little bit of change, but I'm excited to get after them and try to let them reach their full potential.
How much do you marvel? You did as a player with Penei Sewell, but now as a coach. When you look at a guy like that, and now you have to look at schematics, you've got to look at everything, how he can be, that piece for you guys. Just how much do you marvel at really how good of a talent he is? How excited are you to kind of figure out how he works best in this kind of new version of what it's going to be? And does he have a chance to be the best all time, in your opinion, of guys who have played the position?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ceiling's the limit for him. I've been impressed with him since the day he walked in, so that obviously hasn't changed. We haven't really gotten into the game planning specific type things at all, but I mean, if it's on the field, he can do it. So I think that's an exciting piece to play with, and what Coach Petzing and all those guys come up with. I'm excited to see that process, see how it all comes together.
Congratulations. Thanks for taking the time here, and looking forward to you working in that room. Appreciate you as always.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back to the Twentyman Huddle podcast. Love to welcome in new tight ends coach Steve Oliver. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
You've been with the offensive line now, I think the last 5 seasons,
yes.
Correct? You transition over to tight ends. How excited are you to now start working with that group?
It's awesome. I'm super excited. It's a great room, obviously with guys I'm familiar with, like Brock Wright and I got here at the same, like when I got here in that spring of 2021, he came in as an undrafted free agent that same spring. And so we've both been here the same amount of time. And then, having Sam, and then that whole room is just, I mean, they're smart, they're good players. It's just, I can't wait. Obviously, had some time with them before, just from so much being involved with the tight ends and O-line. Yeah. But now just getting, diving into the pass game with them and just everything we can to, make sure that they can be the best versions of themselves too. So
is that fun too? A new challenge? I had Skip on, and obviously going from player to coach, there's that dynamic and that challenge. But with the new position group, and now look, there's a lot of crossover between the offensive line and the tight end, obviously. But do you look forward? Is it invigorating maybe a little bit going into a season with a new challenge like that?
Definitely, it is. Just, I mean, figuring out, what's going to stay the same, what's different with Drew being here terminology-wise on certain things, and just kind of getting immersed in the pass game now and just being able to help in all 3 areas. I'm really excited about it. It's a challenge, but it's a challenge I welcome, and it's one that you get here back in 2021. Like similar concepts in the run game protections you might have done other places, but it's still learning everything from square one. And the thing that I feel very confident about is been with Hank for so much time and how we've operated in terms of the run game protection stuff, that it's just this third angle of things now in terms of, okay, instead of learning all 3, you're just really learning 1, because I had to know what the tight ends had to do. I had to draw the run game my first 4 years, I guess. I drew it for 4 years. Last year's first year I didn't. And so it's not like you're just drawing the O-line, like you're drawing the looks, you're handling the tight end stuff, the combos. You spend so much time together in individual drills, and protections, you have to know, how they adjust in the play actions, and which ones, they're chipped to the flats and all that type of stuff. So now it's just adding another element, and I can't wait.
You mentioned Drew and offensive coordinator Drew Petzing, and he's going to be in his first year. One of the things that you look back at Drew's offenses in Arizona, a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of 13 personnel. I'm just curious, maybe some of the initial conversations you've had about kind of those personnel packages. Now, I know some of that is, what they dealt with in Arizona with some injuries and stuff like that. But it's something that he likes to feature. 12, 13. Yeah. We saw 13 personnel with LA and some of the teams that really use that to their advantage. It's tough to kind of match up defensively against some of those things. How excited are you? How much conversation have you had kind of about implementing some of those packages?
I think some of it's been just things that we've done in the past. Within now, there's going to be different wrinkles. They have maybe featuring now. Trey McBride, is a great player, and he was a big focal point of that offense. And for the tight ends, you got to be excited to know that he's shown he knows how to get the ball to the tight end. Now, obviously, we have a bunch of studs we have to feed here, so it's the ball, there's going to be plenty to go around for everybody. But I mean, there's been a little discussion in terms of what are the best fits here, and sometimes it's might be game plan wise week to week. Maybe it's more advantageous this week to get 12 heavier 13 versus some weeks you might be more in 11. And the good thing is we have the roster and guys in all the rooms that you can kind of be a chameleon and you can kind of do whatever is best to fit that specific week. And it helps with the tight end room just knowing those guys that they're smart players too. They're instinctual, they're smart, they can handle a lot on their plate. So it's, hey, we're going to be all over the board. We're going to have 11, 12, 13 all from week to week that they can handle. We're going from one to the other, and even in game, we're having the brain capacity to execute that at a high level. I think it's definitely, we have the room to do it. Now it's also, you do that, you're taking some of our other dynamic guys off the field. So I know there's going to be a balance, and I know we have the right guy that that we hired, and with Coach Campbell, that we'll make sure we have a good balance of that to make sure that everybody's being featured the way they should be.
How much you excited to work with Sam LaPorta and Brock Wright, especially two guys I know from the crossover you're pretty familiar with. But look, Sam's one of the top 5 in the game. Brock, a very versatile piece. Just the excitement of starting to kind of hit the room with those two guys especially.
No, absolutely. I can't wait. Just the way that they love football. They can do everything. They're not a specific. They're not just a pass tight end. They're not somebody who's only a blocking tight end. They're able to do everything, and both of them have different skill sets that maybe are enhanced in certain areas. And it's, helping them in the areas that they're not, deficient's not the right word, but just where, making sure where their, perceived game weaknesses, try to elevate that, try to, continue to make their strengths even better than they can. And the thing that's good too is it's like we have that previous relationship. So it's kind of a, hey, what works for you, in terms of getting the best out of them, motivating them, understanding that, but also, hey, what do you need from me, figuring out in terms of, how do they learn best, are they, a lot of film on their own, what cut-ups, what do you guys like to watch, are there certain, guys, certain schemes, certain cut-ups that you guys like on top of stuff that, maybe pulling from the O-line background of, hey, this is kind of, similar to how we're teaching it, maybe a few technique things here and there that maybe they haven't done or they might have done in their past that, can help enhance certain schemes, help them with certain things there, and just kind of make sure that, they have what they need. And I can't wait.
So transitioning to a new position, free agency's coming up, the draft is coming up. How much have you gotten into the draft yet? Is it kind of more, are you still in free agent mode in terms of what the front office is looking for and kind of the timeline of things? And just how excited are you to start kind of digging into both of those and maybe trying to find that one piece or those two pieces that fit that room and kind of just really level off that room to be a good versatile group?
No, it was good. I finished up my free agent list here yesterday and finalized it.
All right, who we got? We can put this down.
I'll let the guys. I'll let the guys in the front office. I'll let Brad and Coach handle that one for you. But there were some really good players on that list. Had some with some unique skill sets, some just well-rounded types of guys. It's all over the board. It's fun trying to piece them together and kind of see who's who does this. A lot of names very familiar with just from being in the league for the last 5 seasons. You see these names in crossover tape, you watch them, and then just kind of getting to watch and kind of stack them up versus what they do well, what they don't. Are there things you think that can be fixed that they might not do as well? Are there certain things that's who they are? And I'm excited to see whatever happens there. And then in terms of the draft, just got my my first initial list of getting ready for the combine and for the evals, and just started digging into that here yesterday. And I know I've already watched some that I'm a big fan of. Haven't gotten too far into it yet, so obviously I can't reveal who they are. But no, there's definitely once again all over in terms of different skill sets that bring value in run game, pass game. And it's such a fun position that way because they're really it's a Swiss Army knife position that the more that they can do is the better off that your offense can be and more multiple you can be, and just kind of enhance the guys around them as well as make them a focal point, when that's the type of guy that they are.
I want to finish with this, Steve, and because I've talked with some other coaches and some other guys have mentioned you as kind of this up and coming kind of guy, a guy that they kind of rely on, especially with some of the technical stuff, the computer stuff, the analytics, some of the kind of new form stuff. I'm just curious. Dan Campbell was a tight ends coach that worked his way up. I'm curious. What's the path for you? Kind of where do you see this thing kind of working out? What's the ultimate goal in coaching for you?
I mean, ultimate goal. It's interesting you ask because I've always kind of done it in shorter term goals. That it was when I was a GA back in college, it was okay. I want to get my first room. Then you get that. It's okay. I want to get one at the next level. Then the NFL wasn't necessarily on my radar until I played for Hank Fraley in college, his very first job, and then that was 9 years, 9 years, whatever it was, previous to me being here. And then just once you got up here, it was okay, let's take the next step. So I came in as a quality control, wanted to, let me get to an assistant position coach role. And then it's just been, trying to, get my shot when it's time to run the room and, take full advantage of that and make it the best job I have. But I mean, down the road, I'd love to, be able to be an offensive coordinator at some point, whether, still have a lot to learn still. But it's going to help, I know, with an O-line background as well as, having, the pass game part of it now. And then also I've wanted to leave myself, multiple avenues as long as possible, where if it does make it where you transition back to an offensive line coach down the road, having that background and learning from Hank for 5 years, I mean, it's one of the best in the NFL to do it. And, just the detail he teaches with, the way, the simplicity that he makes complex things simple, and just the little technique, tips of the trade that way that have helped. But now being able to, whatever the road may be down there, is that would be the ultimate goal right now. But I mean, right now I'm just planning where my feet are and make sure I do the best job I can for our guys and our team.
Right now you're the guy in the room for the first time. That's got to be exciting for you. You're working with a terrific group of tight ends, and obviously it's going to be key to whatever the Detroit Lions do offensively. Congratulations on the move. We look forward to kind of watching your progress as you go. Appreciate you, Steve.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.